Hello, and welcome to the Content Systems for Growth podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. So, today I am welcoming my guest, Shannon Tacheny. She is a brand strategist and creative director for female entrepreneurs. She helps big hearted women in business start growing an online presence that is powerful, unique, and connected so they can draw their perfect clients with ease, all without feeling awkward, salesy, or overwhelmed. She's the owner of the Feather Blue Studios and founder of the signature program, The Small Business Bay. Shannon's been an entrepreneur for over 15 years in multiple industries. She loves seeing women lean into purpose and grow in confidence alongside growing business they truly love. She lives in Minnesota with her family and loves chai tea, dark chocolate, and the beach, give back boutiques, and all things blue. So today, welcome to my podcast, Shannon. Shannon, I am so excited to have you here. I have followed you since the beginning of my career. 2016 is when I started my business. So that's been a long time. You're with one of the first people that I came across. And since we're both Midwest girls, I think I had that strong connection with you from that point on. So that's fun. And I'm super excited that you were able to join me today on my podcast. So, Shannon, you have like this calming approach to online business. Like I have felt that from the very beginning. Can you share what led you into creating that system for stress-free social media? Because that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me as well. Appreciate the encouragement and the kind words. I mean, I think all of us in the online space, a lot of it is you just putting your heart out there and knowing and trusting that it's influencing people and making a difference. But it's just so fun to hear that people desire to keep following along, right? That we are putting encouraging content out there that's worth following. So thank you for that. Yeah,
You bet.
I mean, we are here to talk about stress-free social, but the truth is the beginning of stress-free social for part of my brand really stemmed from just making a decision back in 2020 during COVID to recognize that when the world was sort of suddenly being surrounded with overwhelm and fear, that I was feeling called to step up and be a voice for calm, right? That I had struggled with some anxiety in the past, I struggled with doubt in my business, and that I could see how the overwhelm of the world could make women, especially really big hearted women who just feel the weight of things, shut down instead of living out their gifts and talents. And I just thought, I don't want to see that happen. I want to see these women with these big hearts do the big things because they're the ones that are going to make the biggest impact in the world. And so out of that became kind of just this decision that my entire brand would add this new element of you can do business online with calm and confidence. You can do it your way. You can do it a slower way, a different way. You can do it a stress-free way, and to just continually remind women to not shut down because they're feeling the stress and the overwhelm. And so then out of that, as I built out my program, the Small Business Bay, and all the curriculum for that, with like the social media element being, a huge cumulative thing of what we were teaching, it became how do we do social stress-free? What does that look like? And now I just feel really excited and honored to be able to kind of free women up from a way they think they have to do things and say there's a different way to do this online. You can do it well, it can work, and it can feel really good for you.
I know. Well, and social media, I get it because it can feel so stressful if you're not able to let go, I guess, and
Yeah,
release that feeling with it. Or I guess the fear or judgment that you think that you're going to get from it, I think as well is one of those hard pieces. So, for
100%.
sure. And you work with so many heart-centered entrepreneurs. Like, is there a pattern or struggle where you're seeing that made you want to create this social without that stress framework?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think that we all want to think that social media should be inherently fun, but I think at the core, like what you just said is true, that ultimately for most of us, it just feels like a weighty stress that we kind of don't know what to do with, especially when you go from either being, like a social media user independently and then maybe going into a business mode. Well, how does that different, right? So how do I do social media for business differently? And then when we see this world of influencers and of other people, and we think, oh, I have to do it like that, there's this inherent sense that I have to keep up, right? And so the woman that I work with, she is feeling like one, she can't keep up. Like she sees what other people doing And yeah, maybe the idea of it is fun, but she realizes she just doesn't have the hustle or the energy in her or the time, right? She's juggling a lot of things and she's feeling the overwhelm. And that, of course, leads to many women giving it a shot and then really just stopping cold turkey and going, I just can't. I'm just, therefore, it's not for me. I'm going to pull out completely. We really don't want that because the truth is, social media is a free tool, right? That our businesses can use, but so giving up on it really isn't the best solution either, right? And then I think most, if not everyone, deals with that sense of comparison. Like I go online and I think I'm going to get inspired. And instead, I leave that 15 minutes of scrolling feeling completely crushed, like scrolled. Everybody's further along. These same people in my industry, they're doing it better. Why should I bother? Why should I try? Right? Comparison is just a total dream killer and a liar. And that also stops people on their tracks. So we don't want that. And then lastly, I think that the woman is struggling with just the lack of know-how. So like, what could I do instead? What would be the step-by-step process? Like somebody lay this out for me in a way that feels doable or feasible. And just if we can provide her with that framework, then it can free her up and also mentally free her up, right? To like realize that her voice does matter, that her business does matter, and that she can put things into the world that are going to draw the right client in, that are going to make her feel like she's serving and making a difference and is going to be doable within her personality and her timeline. So I think that's a lot of the struggles that I've tried to address as I've created my
Mm,
framework for how to do social media.
that's so good. And of course, this is a content system. So when you're talking about that framework, and I forget it, I don't have to think about it. My mind will automatically start creating steps in my head of the things that happen. That not everybody thinks that way. So I love that this contains that framework in there to make it simple for those people that do struggle with being able to show up or what to post. Because I think staring at that dang cursor blinking at you, going, okay, what should I post today? That it's going to be beneficial because I don't want to just post to post. I want it to actually be something that is beneficial. And I'm going to guess that all of your heart centered entrepreneurs that follow you and work with you feel that exact same way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think what you just said, which is like you can forget that it can be hard and I can forget that it can be hard. And that's because we've done foundational work, right? We've done a lot of behind the scenes work with a lot of pre-made decisions, which is what I call like having a brand story. And then therefore we can put that on repeat. But if nobody's been exposed to that, like there's no sense of where to start at all. So yeah, we want to give them a starting point and a new perspective to shift how this can be entirely different.
Absolutely. We all hear so often, like, just post more. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to lead to anything. Like, you have to have an end goal in mind too with why are you posting and why are you doing this? Because you can feel so overwhelmed when you're doing that. Just posting without any goal or without having a system in place. So, how does your system then flip that script a little bit? Can you dive into that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at first, I think it's just the mindset that we want to be deeper and purposeful and intentional and on point with our messaging. And that is so much more valuable than the quantity of it, right? The quality of it versus the quantity of it. Because the quantity might get people temporary attention. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, right? You might see a few more likes, you might see a little more of the algorithm because there's the quantity, but it's not actually going to lead to your end goal, which is the perfect clients at the perfect time who are super excited to work with you, right? And so we want
Mhm.
to first of all just see it from a whole new perspective that stems back to the big picture of our business strategy, right? Like, what is the point of social? And when we think the point is to get more likes and to get more follows and to get more of the algorithm, we are being deceived because that's what's keeping us sort of in this hamster wheel of panic and of having to post more and more and more, right? But when we can step back and say, hey, my goal is to get the exact right client who needs me and values me. And how does my social media fit into the entire ecosystem of my whole online presence, right? How can I see the role it fills without giving social media too much power? Then that perspective shift right there is very freeing, right? And then what I teach is that we can begin to think of our social media more like a magazine. Like a magazine sits there, it has a beautiful cover. I want to pick it up. When I pick it up, I maybe read several pages in a row, set it down, pick it up, read several pages in a row. It's not that the magazine pages are like being jumped up in my face and, thrown at me all the time. It's that it's something that I'm excited to read. I know it's going to have a similar vibe about it, right? Like similar content. I already know I'm going to like the content so that when I dig in, it's reinforcing and making me feel good. So if we can think of it like a magazine, we think more like when somebody lands on my social and they're the right person, are they going to read 6 to 10 posts that completely make them realize that I'm the person they want to hire or I'm the person they want to download something from, right? And so thinking about more of what action do I want to take when they land there versus how do I get more and more and more people to land there is what's going to get us closer to our end goal of actually having more clients and customers instead of just having a really busy social media feed that is taking up our time but not necessarily helping us meet our goals.
Hmm. I love that magazine because I didn't even think about that. That's totally because, well, okay, so random story about me. I don't remember how many years ago. It was when my kids were young and we used to
Okay.
camp all the time. And I would bring this stack of magazines with me every single time. And they're like, why? One of my friends is like, why do you always have so many magazines? And I'm like, well, because I'm behind because it takes so long to read through the whole magazine. She's like, why do you read through the whole magazine? Why don't you just read the articles you want to read? And I'm like, I don't know, because I thought you had to read them cover to cover. I didn't know there was a different way. But that's
Right. Yes.
the same way with the social posts. I mean, there's going to be things that resonate with you and things that are not. So I love that analogy of being like a magazine. Like you get to pick and choose the things that you actually want to read and flip over the things that you don't.
Right. And just to like hone in on that a little more to help people understand. I mean, so many of us are so inundated now with this like constant scrolling and constant feed of social media. But literally, even just 10, 15 years ago, a business would survive with their marketing based on a brochure. A brochure had 3 panels and they printed thousands of the same brochure, and the people read the same brochure over and over and over again. So what makes us think now? I mean, humans' minds, yes, we maybe have a little shorter attention span, but we still need to be fed from a marketing psychology perspective the same elements. We need to have the clarity, we need to have the trust, we need to have the know-how, right? We need to feel like the company can solve our problems. And when we get those same elements on repeat, it just reinforces that this company is for us. So if we can let go of this, need to feel like it has to be different, 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 more, 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 and just go, what are the actual elements that we need to, put out over and over and over in a meaningful, heart-centered, servant-focused way, then we feel good about our social, and then so do the people landing there.
Mm, yeah, that's so good. So then, what are the elements that you would put into a typical week of social media? Like, what would that look like under your method?
Yeah, I mean, so the elements, when you phrase it with the elements way, I'm going to go a little bit differently there for a second because all of what I decide to put out, period, content entirely comes from what I call our brand story. Our brand story is like those core topics that we have strategically, carefully determined to make sure that they fill every gap that our customer needs to hear, right? That they don't have to come to us and ask a bunch of questions. There isn't a bunch of doubts. We're never convincing people or feeling salesy because we have laid out those elements. And like I said, they include things like trust. They include things like making sure we know we can solve their problems. What is the benefit they're going to get from the solutions, right? And there's just a certain number of these elements. And from that, we pick our 6 to 12 core topics, and then everything stems out of those, right? Now, to kind of go into the second part of that, which is like, what does my social media actually look like and how often does that mean I'm posting, etc.? The truth is there is no typical week for me. I mean, I really, really embrace and teach that social media has different seasons, just like our business, right? And the number one problem is when we feel tied down and we feel like we have guilt induced from not doing enough. That is going to just set us back as a business owner, as a CEO, right? All the things that is not healthy for us. We want to feel joy in both our social and our business. So it doesn't mean, of course, that consistency on social media is bad. Consistency is great when you're in a season where you can be like, I can pre-schedule this, I can put it out, it's fabulous. But what I really teach is that it's okay to have seasons of social bursts and seasons of slow but meaningful brand maintenance, okay? There are even seasons when working on our social media can be hurting our overall business or stalling our business because some people don't have an offer finished. They don't have their core brand topics finished. They don't know their whole marketing pathway or have their online presence finished. But because social is so visible, they feel like they have to be doing all these things on social. And it is really just wasting time from building all these other core elements for a business, right? So depending on the season we're in and the stage of our business, that looks differently. Okay. But once you do that foundational work, like once you have your brand story, the good news is you're never going to run out of things to say. It's just a matter of how often you have the capacity to put it out there. Right. So for me specifically, what that looks like is when I'm in a very like healthy season and I'm capable of managing it really well, or if I'm in a season where I'm promoting something, right? Then I might be posting 3 to 5 times a week. And that again depends also on the marketing channel you want to use, because I don't think we should be in all the marketing channels, right? I think we should pick one or two. So in my case, it's primarily Instagram, with Facebook business kind of being my backup. And so I might have times where I am pre-scheduling 2 weeks to 2 months in advance, and I have that going. I might also have times where for 2 weeks, I'm posting multiple times a day to promote an event or a sale or something like that. But then there are times where I'm in seasons where I just step back and I'm in like hardcore maintenance mode, which means maybe it's once a week, maybe it's even only once a month. But what I never feel like is I have to completely go, guys, I have to take a 6 month break because I'm so burnt out, because I don't want to let myself get burnt out, right? That isn't helping anyone. As long as somebody can land on my social media page and go, oh, she's still active, she's still alive, her business is running, and they can read the last 6 to 8 posts, my social media is working very powerfully for me. And so it's not about feeding the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't always like me, right? I consistently say you can have a post with 0 likes that is still valuable to you, because if somebody lands on that post and it reminds them to go to your website and then they set up a call or they buy a thing, they never had to hit like on that post for it to matter, but it's part of what reinforces your whole brand story for them. So it's not that I'm anti-consistency when it works well for somebody, but when we feel like a slave to consistency, I think that that is a harmful thing for the female entrepreneur. And so I really just lean into the seasonal element of social media feeling stress-free.
I love that. And I will take that to heart, because that's one of the things that I struggle with the most with social media, is feeling like I have to post, or I should post, or I need to post, or I have to do it a certain amount of time or be consistent with it. And I find that it's not, because since I do social media and, content repurposing for my customers, they come first. Like, I'll put theirs before mine all the time, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I guess. I don't know, but that's how I handle it. And listening to how you're talking about it makes me go, "Oh, it's okay. You just granted me permission." So I appreciate that. Thank you.
And that's exactly what many women need, is just permission to go, I can do it differently. I can do it slower. And the content I've created before that is still valuable to me, right? It's not whatever I put up today is valuable and then it's gone. It's still working for you.
Yeah, and I think we forget that, because you do hear that social media has that shorter cycle that comes up. But yet, if somebody really likes the content that you put out, they will go back and read 6 to 8 posts, like you say. I probably would agree with you. I don't know if I'd go back much farther than that. I'd feel like a stalker, social media stalker. But you're going to capture everything that you're at. They're going to be able to capture the essence of who you are and like you say, your brand story in those particular posts.
And let's face it, the people that are going to dive in and go back a little further are the people who are our perfect clients, right? We don't need everybody to be doing that. We just need the few right people who are going to hire us or buy from us. And they're the ones who are, of course, going to investigate a little closer. And so we need to let go of it just being about the numbers, because 95% of those people aren't going to buy from you. And it's wonderful that we can encourage them and, teach them along the way and feel really good about that. But we don't have to feel like we just have to put out more to keep them happy, right? Like, it is about that person who's going to buy from us or make some sort of purposeful action, whether it's downloading something, joining our email list, joining a challenge, whatever it is, right?
Absolutely. And I think you've touched on this originally when we talked about your brand story, but I want to just make sure that it's covered, because, I got my list of questions, and I'll make sure I ask every single one of them throughout, because I like to bring on guests that I'm always got a ton of questions for, so that they can answer them for me. But so the brand story that plays into your social media process, like, how can the followers that you work with authentically be authentic through social media, but not, sometimes we feel like, I don't want to overshare, or they have certain boundaries that they don't want. I mean, like, they don't want things they don't want to share. Like, there's some entrepreneurs out there that will share everything. And others, I mean, like, I don't necessarily share a ton, So how can I do that? Like keep my brand story as you talked about or your content? Do you have like a process of what they can share or not share to be authentic to themselves?
Yeah, 100%. And I think you're right. For a few people online, they are okay with sharing their whole life story. And I think that's where some of that comparison comes in and some of that guilt comes in because we're like, well, that's never going to be me. Guess what? That doesn't have to be you. Like, lean into your personality, lean into your God given gifts. Let's do business the way you were designed to do it with your strengths. And the truth is, they're living their strengths. If that's the kind of person they were made to be, good for them. But you need to be true to yourself and live in your strengths. And so, for most of the women I serve, they do wanna be somewhat protective. They don't wanna be, like, what I call throwing up on the internet, right? But how do we know? How do we know if I should share, like, the peanut butter and jelly sandwich I made with my kid or the vacation I went on? Like, where are the boundaries, right? And so, this is absolutely something that is predetermined as we go through the deep roots of building out our brand story, right? So, not only does that brand story grant us, like, the ability to create the perfect messaging for the perfect client at the perfect time that we can put on repeat, but it also allows us to have those boundaries. We can decide exactly what we're going to share and what we're not going to share. And then also, we don't have that decision fatigue. It isn't like, oh, this thing came up. Should I or should I not talk about it? Right. So, when we do our brand story, and I call them sometimes like brand story bubbles, we pick one or two of those elements are going to be about you because there does have to be a little bit of trust. Like, find something from something on the internet. There has to be an element of trust, right? So, we want to choose things that we would love if our perfect client shared that value, right? So whether some of them are deeper, like we have deep values, like maybe about faith or maybe about like things in the world. It's really, really important to us that our person shares those same values, or maybe those values don't matter to us at all. And so therefore we don't talk about those values at all, right? So we predetermine based on who we want to serve, who we feel called to show up for and help the most, who we're going to get the most joy from serving, some of those deeper connective things. And then we pick a few of like the more lighthearted connective things, like maybe your family loves to play board games and you always want to talk about board games. And that might super connect you with somebody else, but it's also not going to turn them away if like they don't love board games, but it's going to give them a glimpse into you and your personality, right? So by predetermining which elements of ourself connect most with the person we want to serve, and then letting go of other ones that don't, it helps us know that we can just talk about those same things on repeat. And I think, one thing that I just want to talk about here too, I can't remember if I was going to mention it somewhere else, but I think it applies to this a lot is we see a lot of people on social talking about like hard things they've been through or challenges they've gone through, right? And this can be a deeply connective thing to share about, right? Like if anything, I think one of the absolute best things to come out of the internet is that we feel seen and understood by other people. Like we feel somebody else is out there that's like me, somebody else is out there that's been through what I've been through, right? But those are more sensitive topics. And how do we know what to share there and when? And so the tip that I would give there that I find really valuable, that I found valuable once upon a time is wait until you've gone through the thing, learned the lesson from it, and then share the lesson when you're like in a place of emotional peace about the situation. So it's wonderful to learn from these situations, but when we speak out of them, when we're in really hard situations, we sometimes aren't able to think clearly on how that's affecting our brand or maybe how we're going to feel 2 days later and such and such. So I think that's another boundary you can put in that brand story is, hey, if I want to teach and encourage through my life, I'm just going to wait until I feel really calm about it first, and then I'm going to share about that too. So that's one more way our brand story bubbles can work for us with boundaries. I want to feel like I have permission to be real too, right?
I think it's overwhelming, like, if you follow somebody that, gives you that perception that everything's perfect, because like, I don't believe that there's a perfect in this world, so I don't need to be trying to reach expectations that are false.
Exactly.
I'm curious about mindset. How do you help clients shift their mindset from having, "I have to be everywhere," to just be more at that focused, peaceful approach? Because I struggle with, I really need to be everywhere and know everything about every single different platform.
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of people feel instantly, yeah, my business has to be on every platform or I don't feel legit, right? So I think the difference is, let's be realistic. If you're a solopreneur versus being like a small business with, one or two employees versus being Best Buy, right? There's a massive different need for how our marketing needs to look. And so if you're a solopreneur and you don't have anybody helping you with your social media yet, the truth is you can't be everywhere. So let's just be realistic. Like, you're not going to be able to show up in all those places really, really well. Now, there are times when we can, if there is platforms and channels where we can duplicate our content, okay, then that obviously is the best option. But even that is sometimes an extra step from a technology standpoint that just throws us off. So I really encourage people, literally just pick one place to show up and go, how do I do this one place well? And if you want to add a second or you want to add a third later, or if you want to add a team or somebody who's helping you repurpose or helping you post, then certainly you can begin to expand that. But it's not going to help you if you just look like you're barely there in 3 to 4 places, right? It's going to be much better if you look like you have depth and presence in one place. So how we choose that, we think about, well, what aligns? Where do I want to be? Like, if I had to just go be on social media or be on the thing, what is it where I find the most joy, right? Where do I get the most information? So if I have to be there, it should be somewhere I actually want to show up, first of all. Where is my client? Where do they want to be, right? So we kind of combine those two things. And then what's my personality? What am I realistically good at keeping up with? And what realistically tends to just not happen? And so how do I kind of take those 3 factors and figure that out? And really, if we can embrace that, see, there's just only one you in the whole world, right? And you don't have to be anybody else. You don't have to be like anybody else. You don't have to have the capacity of anybody else, right? And if you can feel like you are doing social out of your own personality, your own strengths, your own perspectives, then not only do that lets go of the comparison of all the other people, but it also just frees you to go, I don't have to do everything, but here's where I'm made to show up and I'm going to do this one thing really, really well.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's that where's my biggest bang for my buck? So trying to figure out, but I also like the fact when you're saying like pick the place that you like to be. Because so often you'll hear people say, well, show up where your ideal client wants to be. But it's kind of like, what is it? The Venn diagram, like with the circles, it's like
Absolutely.
where they're at, where you want to be in that middle piece is like the perfect place. Because if you show up, I try to like Facebook, but I don't. I
That's okay.
like, I don't. And yeah, in repurpose, I'm totally a repurposer, and that's one of the things that I do as well. But I'm curious, and this might be a little bit off of a question, but so going back to like your brand and things like that, do you have your clients then, does your social media process like set up a content library where they can go back and just pull older content that they've used before and repost that again?
Yeah. The way I teach people to do things is, first of all, let's start with the foundations, right? So let's start with who is our target audience. Let's start with who is my personality. Let's not start with social media. That's is like the social media is the end result of having a really good plan and really good foundation. So once we know who my perfect person is and who I want to serve and who I am, like, let's figure out, again, let's not pretend I think I'm going to be good at YouTube if I'm not. Right? Let's really figure out who I am. Then we develop based on a series of questions and pulling things out. What are these brand story core elements? And then what's my whole big picture? What is my whole online presence going to look like? Where am I actually trying to lead people from social media? Because again, if we don't have specific calls to action and a specific thing we want them to do from social media, it's almost pointless, right? And so having this whole big picture first and then going into the social media system, what I have created for my clients is what I call our social media hub. It's my signature hub. And it's where they get to rate elements under each brand story topic. And then they can use those elements. Once they've done this whole chart one time, they're instantly going to have like 36 to 60 pieces of content over the matter of doing this over the course of a few days or a few weeks based on how long they want to do it. And then certainly once they put that content out there, I really tell people you have permission to duplicate it exactly if you want. If that is a good fit your business and you have put 36 posts out there, and you want to use those same 36 posts again and again and again, you have 100% permission to do that, and probably nobody will notice. And if they did notice, who cares? It's like your brochure being put out into the world again and again and again. Now, if you enjoy creating new content, or if you enjoy mixing in things that are happening in my life or things happening in my business, then what I encourage is an element of repeating some of that content and then adding some new content every month. So absolutely, we design it so that you can use it again. And also that the first time or two you do this, that you're going to notice what is really getting people's attention. You're going to notice what people felt encouraged by or were taught by or motivated by. And that's going to help you hone in on really the depth of your brand story because, okay, now you can see, oh, this core topic, I need to talk about this one more. Okay, this core topic, I can talk about a little less, right? So we identify what is going to really help with that connection the most, and then we can put those things on repeat at a higher level.
That's so good. I love it. I absolutely love it. And this one, I'm curious because the feeling of being behind or inconsistent, what are your feelings? What do you tell somebody that is coming into your program and starting to work with you where they're feeling that they're completely behind, they're not catching up, they're not consistent? Does your process talk about how they can actually turn those things around? Or is there more of that mental mindset that goes along with it, or the belief system, I guess, maybe it might be that too as well.
Yeah. It's certainly both. It's certainly a belief system and it's certainly having a process. But let's face it, the first thing I would ask them is you feeling like you're behind all the time? How is that serving you? How do you feel when you think I'm behind all the time? When I think that, I feel completely overwhelmed and then my brain freezes up and I can't do the next thing, right? So, what if we tell you, hey, you're not behind? You're exactly where you need to be. Okay. Your next job is to identify the next baby step forward and take that baby step and to celebrate that baby step, to focus on what I did get done and celebrating what I got done. And then going, now what's the absolute next right thing to do and doing that one thing, right? So we have to eliminate the block of overwhelm to be able to move forward. Everybody started with 0 followers. Everybody started with 0 experience. Everybody starts with making a lot of mistakes. Everybody feels overwhelmed almost all the time. But that feeling is just stopping women in their tracks. So I would say now you have to identify what is the next right step at the right time. Do you know what that is? If you don't know what that is, that's when you need somebody's system. That's when you need a coach or a program or an outline or a map, right? Like, I mean, my program, the Small Business Bay, takes women through this whole thing over an 8-month experience. But I also have like my brand and marketing map in my shop that they can just download and get the gist of it, right? To be like, hey, where am I in the right order at the right time? I really think a lot of what stops women is doing really good things in the wrong order. So, like, social media is a good thing. If I don't have the foundations for it, I'm doing it in the wrong order and it's actually wasting me time. But when we go, if we're really new to online business and we show up online and we see businesses, all we can do is start to copycat the outward facing things. We don't know the behind the scenes things. And if you don't know what those are, you need to find out because the behind the scenes things are going to make what you do so much more efficient. Because when you do the right thing in the right order at the right time, sure, you're still going to have some trial and error. You're still going to make mistakes. Things are still going to be fuzzy, right? No promises that this is all like rainbows, but it's going to be so much more efficient to do the right thing in the right order at the right time over like 6 months to a year than spending 3 years spinning your wheels because you really didn't know what those were. So when we can step back and embrace that brand focused way, that's where we get the pre-made decisions. And then the pre-made decisions make everything simple and easy later once you do the work now. But above all, again, you're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. Celebrate what you got done. Let go of that overwhelm so that you can find the solution to what is the next right thing right now.
That's so good. You're exactly right. When you're feeling overwhelmed, it completely shuts you down. And I have to have a checklist because if I don't have my checklist, that's when my brain starts to spin. If I don't do that mental download every single day and get that clutter out of my brain, it like will halt me in my tracks. And I'll be spinning and not getting anywhere. And that doesn't make any of us feel good or valuable or a child of God at all. I always say that if you're feeling overwhelmed anxiety, that is not a feeling from God because definitely He only gives you joy and peace.
Yeah. And that it's not that it's like an instant switch. It's work. It's mental work to choose it, to go, I'm celebrating, I'm in gratitude, I'm not going to worry about these things. I'm going to even take the self-discipline to go back to my checklist. How many times do we get in this whirl of like, what's the next thing? And we haven't even looked when we have the map right there. I mean, I have clients who will be like, I don't know what to do next. And I'll be like, okay, well, when was the last time you looked at your map? And they'll be like, oh, I haven't in a while. Okay, there's the map. But it's normal for us to get in that state of overwhelm. And then we begin to think it's normal to live there. And so just really, I think even for somebody listening to this who's like, I feel that way all the time, hey, identify that you feel that way and identify that you don't have to feel that way. But it's going to take a little bit of retraining your brain to help you go, there's a lot of things on my plate and I'm not going to feel the overwhelm. I'm going to take the baby steps and I'm going to appreciate that.
Yeah. And it's just stepping back and looking at that big picture. So I love that so much. So now that we have all the overwhelm, we all know that we're there. Can you walk me through how do you personally decide what you want to share with the world with social media and what you keep private? Because I know for me, I do a lot of storytelling and I know you do too, because I read your email. A lot of storytelling to my clients or my email followers. I tell them a lot of different stories that I actually do on social media. So I'm curious, like, how do you decide the difference? Like, this is what I want to share with my email list, and this is what I want to share on my social media, or do you share it across? It doesn't matter. You'll share the same type of story across the different platforms.
That's a great question because the truth is, I think the correct answer, the most efficient way to do it would be to share the exact same thing on your email and your social. That would make life really easy. I'm going to go back to this being a personality thing, and I'm going to say, what makes you take steps forward in your marketing in the easiest way possible? For me, I feel a little more comfortable, and this is maybe weird. I have thought about this. I feel a little more comfortable sharing in depth with my email audience. Partly because they've already decided to stay. They went through a series of emails, they've gotten to know me, they want to be there. And if they don't want to be there, I want them to unsubscribe. Like, I'm very intentional about putting things out in my email that are, again, those brand things, those things that will push people away who aren't the right fit, but really bring in the people who are. And also, I naturally enjoy writing. So some people do not. Think about that. If I enjoy writing, to me, my email is a little bit of a journaling experience for me. I'm able to go, here's a story, this feels relatable. And even though I have a lot of strangers reading it, and I don't know who they are and I can't see it, somehow I still feel like they've chosen to be there. And when you've been in this long enough, you don't often hear positive feedback. Like, people hardly ever reply back to your emails. But when you do and you get enough of just little bits of people telling you this made a difference for me today, that reminds you that you're living out your gifts and talents and that you are making a difference. And so for me, my email list is that. Social for me is a little bit more of, hey, I'm trying to get you to my email list. That's the intention behind it, right? The intention of my email is to keep my connections deep and to point people to purchasing. The connection of my social is generally to start to form the connections and to point them to make a baby step decision towards having a deeper relationship with my brand, which is usually joining my email list. For other people, that could be different. For other people, it could be, I'd like you to send me a DM, only if that feels like a place you would enjoy responding and having relationships. For me, I find it overwhelming to have the time to have maybe all these conversations on messaging systems. And I'd much rather just sort of point them to the storytelling and have them reply via email. So I think it's just that pre-made decision of what feels best for me, and then identifying there's definitely going to be my brand story elements. Everything is through the lens of my brand story elements. So both my e-news and my social media are putting out elements of my brand story so that I'm creating trust, connection, motivation. But I do choose to use them just slightly differently because that's just how I enjoy doing it, I think.
Yeah, I do too. And I agree with you because the people that are on my list, you look at those as being your business besties because they're like, hey, yeah, I want to get to know you a little bit more. So I'm going to subscribe to your list because I like what you have to. And I feel like they have that special place in my heart where they get a little bit more. They get to hear about my lazy garden and my winning golf. I think you talked about your love for the lake in one of your messages. They get that little inside track that I don't necessarily share with everybody else on my podcast or social media or different things like that.
And with that said, I just want to add to this because everybody doesn't have to do email the same way either. And so if somebody feels overwhelmed by us talking about how we like to share stories on email and they're like, that's not me. I don't like to write, but I do feel like I should have an email system. They have permission to do email entirely differently as well. And if your email is one quote that comes out on a Thursday to inspire people, and if it's one tip that comes out once a week, that is absolutely okay and powerful because you're still getting your brand in front of people. So there is more than one way to use all of these platforms, even when you choose them. And I don't want somebody to feel like they have to do it in the way I do it. That's another thing, is that I don't teach people to do things the way I've done it. I think a lot of coaches and strategists are like, join my program and follow my exact steps that got me to this point. And there's nothing wrong with that. Great, they had success. And if you have a very similar personality to them, you might experience the same success. But I want to take my client to go, tell me about your strengths, your joys, where you like to be. Let's figure out the exact right path for you and how to use things for you. Because if you copycat my path, it's probably not going to work unless you're just like me, right? And so that's very freeing too. And I think, like I had one client say, I think Shannon was the first person who really saw me for who I was instead of just telling me what to do. And first of all, the first thing I thought was, I can't believe that. Like, how is everybody missing out on you and your strengths and your beautiful personality? But also, what a blessing that I'm able to pour into her in that way and say, yeah, I see who you were made to be. And let's pull out the greatest part of you so that you can make the biggest impact in the world through your life and your business.
And that is 100% true, and thank you so much for mentioning it because it is, and I even talk about it with a system, like, just because I use Asana or I use ClickUp or I use this to get my work done or to run my system, that doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna work for your particular brain because you're gonna look at things completely different or feel overwhelmed by different things. You need to pick. That's the whole point of having a business, right? Is that we get to do it how we wanna do it and how we feel called to do it versus how somebody else felt called to do it. And I think it's letting go and just accepting that's who you are.
Right. And that isn't easy. It's easy to say, but it is a little bit of a process. I mean, I
Mm.
think another thing that goes along with what you started with this in the question, which was like, how do I decide how much to share or whatever? It's partly I didn't at the beginning. At the beginning, you put your toe in the water and you go, what do I feel courageous enough to share right now? And then when you don't get terrible repercussion and the world doesn't explode because you shared a little bit about yourself, then you share the next little thing. And so courage comes with action. I take that action even when I feel the fear. And then slowly but surely, when I see the impact my action is having, it opens up more courage.
Mhm.
Certainly, the way I run my business now and what I share about myself and my life now is well beyond, it still has its boundaries. Don't get me wrong. That's the person I'm going to be, but it's well beyond what I started with. But I don't think people need to feel they need to start there. Start in the baby waters of here's how I love to serve you. Here's how we can make a difference in your life. Here's what my product or service does. Go from there.
Yeah, that's absolutely so true. I believe that full-heartedly that be where you are right now, in that you talk a lot about being in the present moment. I really do like that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to being able to actually get all your social media out there, like, is there a specific tool that you recommend to people to get their planning, batching, scheduling? Do you not schedule things? Do you just have them do it in the moment at that time? Do you have a preferred system for that or a platform or tool that you use?
Yeah. So, I mean, I basically have a two-part system. So it's pretty simple. I'm going to preface this though with I actually really hate technology. And I want to say that because I want women who are thinking of starting their business or they're running their business and they're like, this is all very, very intimidating to not feel like those of us that have an online business like are naturally tech user friendly. Okay? I am not. In fact, that was one of the huge fears that held me back of taking my business because I previously ran a 10-year photography studio and I did that in a stage where social media was very limited. And then when I thought I'm going to go back to my brand and marketing roots because I love marketing psychology. I love serving people this way. I love copywriting, design. I love bringing all this together. But oh no, technology has changed. What if I can't do it? And so once I was able to dive in, and the first thing I realized was that everything is figure outable. So what feels really intimidating at first, when you dive in a little bit, you are capable of learning it, even if you aren't really tech savvy. The second thing I learned was that a lot of people love tech and I can just hire them. You too. There's always somebody who loves the thing that I hate, and that's okay. So I think if somebody's in that stage where they're like, the idea of all these platforms and tools feels intimidating, just know that you are going to get there no matter your personality, whether you learn it yourself or you have somebody support you in it. So that's what I would start with. But in general, I see my business as pretty low tech. I mean, maybe it's a little more because I can do the whole back end of my Squarespace and I can do the whole everything in my email ConvertKit by myself that I've learned. But generally, I keep it as simple as possible. And so for me, that means the writing portion of my social media is done in that hub I told you about, the signature hub. And that is basically just our own signature, like a Google spreadsheet, number spreadsheet. It comes in any form people want to use it in. So that's very, very low tech. Then I use Planoly, Planoly, in order to schedule my actual content on Instagram. And it will send it also to Facebook if I want. Planoly does a lot more things. I don't want to use all the things, and that's okay. It also schedules for Pinterest. It has all these other things. I want to just use it in the simplest way that works for me. The reason I like Planoly is because I'm specifically very visual. And so it lets me upload a bunch of graphics and photos and move them around kind of like a little puzzle. And once I see the puzzle, then I'm able to upload the text or the words and then schedule it from there, and it will post the content for me. So that's why I like it. But I also say there's a lot of scheduling tools out there. So go explore for yourself what they are. As far as creating graphics, for me, it's just pretty much straight up Canva. Now, I do love graphic design. I was a graphic design minor. And so that part's really fun for me. And so if that's not fun for you, just keep it super simple and find a way to use it super simply. But yeah, so not complicated. And I've been using it for a long time and I don't really like change. So once I have a system that works, I stick with it until it's like, die time. And then I research the next thing.
That's so funny because I totally love tech. I'm like that person that people come to and ask the questions like, how do you do this thing? Because I like tech. So, but it's a good and a bad thing because I'm always curious about the next software tool. So then I'm like, oh, I should do this. But then that takes me away from what I really should be doing because I'm always like, maybe I should try this out. But no, I shouldn't.
We have to hone back our favorite parts and focus a little.
I know. So I like envy you. I stick with this because I know this and that is a wise use of time. I tell you right now, from my perspective, I admire that because I get distracted by technology and the fun new thing to try.
Right.
But
Which I admire that you love that, right? And I think everybody has permission to be like an early adopter, a late adopter, or a mid adopter of every type of technology. And I think, again, it's that permission of going, oh, all these changes happened. Do I feel stressed to keep up? If you don't want to, don't. Let everybody else that's excited try it out and then decide if it's important down the line. And again, these kind of things that we can give ourselves permission, freeing permission to go, I can do it in the way that's going to work best for me, but not be so afraid that I ignore it. It's like some of us have things we're just not doing. We're not taking action on. We aren't putting that website up or that social media up or whatever because we're just terrified of it. Don't do that. Let other people do a few things, read their research, and then take some sort of baby step forward. But just don't feel like you always have to keep up with whatever is the latest and greatest.
yeah, and I mean, that's true. And it's that I think sometimes that's just the distraction that somebody's trying to keep you from doing your greatness is they're putting it in your path. So I have to remind myself, someone put this in my path. I need to ignore it and shove it aside because that's not for me right now.
Focus is definitely hard for everyone. It's just which things distract us. This is a huge element to keeping you on some level of success in your business for sure.
Oh, and to know what your vices are for sure, because like we don't all have the same thing that will draw our focus away. So, and if you don't know what your vices are, it's for sure you can be like, what did I just do for the last 3 hours?
Right. Yeah. So if you're a listener now, take stock of that. What is distracting me and what's keeping me on the right path at the right time?
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Okay, so I don't want to take up all of your day today, and we're drawing to the close here. So I just have a couple more things. I know you're giving my listeners this wonderful free gift of your 7 social media secrets. Do you want to talk about that a little bit before I let you go here?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's just 7 freeing ways to let go of what feels stressful in social and have permission to do it a different way. So, I mean, there's the secret right there, but go in and find out what they are. And then take a second at each one and really embrace that you can do this differently. And then I would say always the next thing to do is go, okay, so now, like we said before, what's the right next thing at the right time that I can focus on and let go of the 10,000 other things, but take a baby step forward on that right thing and then celebrate it. And that's how people are going to get the most progress in their business. It's just that one next thing.
And then where then, Shannon, is the best place for my listeners to be able to connect with you?
Yeah, so my business is called Feather Blue Studios, and it has an S at the end of the studios. And so I'm at Feather Blue Studios in all those places. So my website is featherbluestudios.com. I'm on Instagram at Feather Blue Studios, and that is where I do most of my social. And then my email list is probably the most active way that I communicate and connect with people. And you can sign up for that either on my website or Instagram. And then I do have some of my elements pushed to my Facebook business page as well.
Okay, sounds good. Yes, because you like all things blue. I remember that. One of the things that I love is your feather that you have in your logo.
Thank you.
It's like one of my favorites. It's for sure.
I hope it's calming. That's the idea.
Yeah, it is calming. And when I first was debating, another little story here, when I was first debating on whether I should start a business or not start a business after I had left my sales job, I had asked God for a sign and my request was a feather.
Oh, that's special.
Yeah. When I ran across your branding, the first time I ever came across you and you had a feather, I was like, I need to pay attention to this girl right now.
Okay, well, just to build on that, Michelle, go ahead, go back to my Instagram, scroll past 12 posts and stalk me, okay? And you're gonna find there is a photo, maybe it's a little video of where there is clouds that look like a feather in the sky, like this huge set of wings in the sky. And this was last summer. I'm driving down the road near our house with my daughter, and I looked up and I just said to her, oh my gosh, God put those feathers in the sky for me. And it is so clear to me that they are like two giant wings. So there you go. God uses cool elements like that in ways to remind
Mhm.
us that he's paying attention, that he cares about our every need and our desire and the way we were designed. He's with us through it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. Thank you so much for being with me today. I appreciate it. And as I always say, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you. And I hope you make it a wonderful week because we get to choose how we feel every single day. And I think it's always good to choose the positive.
Absolutely. Well, thank you too for everything you're bringing to the world and for having me here as well. It's been a joy.
Oh, thank you. Yay. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you found this episode valuable and learned some actionable tips that you can implement in your business so that you can feel accomplished and less stressed. If you enjoyed this show, please take a quick minute to share this with your business bestie, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps me reach more business owners just like you. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover in future episodes, please reach out to me on my website. I've created a form just for you. Remember, with the right system and mindset, you can achieve the success your heart desires. Thank you for tuning in. I look forward to chatting with you next time. I appreciate you and I hope you have a wonderful week. And don't forget, let's grow, friends.